Athletes dying from heat stroke. Next. Welcome to the Stan Simpson Show, a program about Connecticut people and compelling issues. Make it a point to drop it every week. When Minnesota Vikings football player Corey Stringer died 9 years ago, who knew it would spawn a legacy that would connect with Connecticut? The NFL and UConn recently announced that the Corey Stringer Institute will be located at the UConn's NEAG School of Education. It will conduct research and advocate for procedures that reduce the increasing number of athletes dying of heat-related illnesses. Athletic trainer and UConn researcher Rebecca Stearns and WTIC Radio Scott Gray will discuss this novel partnership. In our second segment, if you invested in Apple, you've done pretty well. The technology titan had a record second quarter, increasing sales and doubling profits. Fox 61 technology guru Rick Hancock tells us what's driving those numbers. Then, folks, we'll wrap things up with some shop talk from our entertainment attorney, James Walker. What advice would he give to Katie Stevens and Conan O'Brien? But first, the Corey Stringer Institute at UConn. This is a big deal. Rebecca Stearns, a researcher and doctoral student, a key player in getting this done. How did this happen?
Yep. Well, it's very interesting. You know, after Corey Stringer's death, his wife, Kelsey Stringer, wanted to create this institute in order to help increase the knowledge and spread the word about heat stroke and the dangers of heat stroke and hopefully prevent this from happening in the future.
And the numbers show that heat stroke deaths have doubled, right, in the last 35 years. It's a big problem.
Yeah, well, if you take the last 35 years and you break them up into 5-year blocks, this last 5-year block has twice as many deaths in it than any other 5-year block.
For athletes, right? Yeah,
yes.
Big problem. Scott Gray, the issue of young athletes.
I was just going to say, 9 years since Corey Stringer died, and it really doesn't seem like we've made a lot of progress in this time. It seems like right now is when we're getting things going. It looks like it's going to be a combination of research and education initiative. My guess would be the education part would be extremely important. We're talking football coaches, we're talking coaches in a variety of sports who really don't understand what's going on here. And so I would think the education part of this initiative is something that we're probably way behind on.
Yep, it's huge. We really just want to get the word out. And to anybody, really, anybody that's dealing with athletes, any athletic trainers, athletic directors, coaches, parents, we want to increase that knowledge and then also hopefully change the policies and procedures regarding heat stroke and how we recognize it, prevent it, and also treat it.
It's a mindset thing, too, right? I mean, you have coaches back in the day where if players got tired, they say, don't have water, toughen up, be a man. That was old thinking, and that caused a lot of problems. Talk about the change in the mindset about water and toughness.
Yeah. Well, we know that water now is a huge factor. It will increase your core temperature, which is one of the main things that happens with heat stroke. So if you stay hydrated and you drink water, your body temperature will stay lower than it would if you don't. So one of the other big factors, though, is definitely intensity of that exercise. So that is the number one factor that can actually increase your core temperature faster and greater than anything else.
You mentioned the intensity, Rebecca, and to me that's very interesting because you might go out on a day when it's 70 degrees, a little breeze going, feels relatively warm, and you may not think that you're at danger for heat stroke. But the temperature is not really the overriding factor, is it?
Well, it will definitely be a combination of factors. I can't say that any one will definitely cause you to have a heat stroke versus another, but intensity of exercise and environmental factors, hydration status, your acclimatization or how used to you are working in the heat. If you're coming down from a very cold environment and all of a sudden are exposed to this hot one, you're definitely not going to be able to handle the heat as well as those that are used to that heat.
You know, it's interesting to me, the announcement of this initiative was made at the NFL draft in New York on Friday, and everybody can understand the NFL's connection with this, of course, Corey Stringer. Why UConn? How did UConn get involved in this?
Well, UConn came into the factor because at the University of Connecticut, the NEAG School of Education within the university, we specialize in heat and hydration research. So we have a very long legacy of doing research and conducting these studies in this area. So Kelsey came to Doug Casa, who is a professor there.
Kelsey's wife.
Yes.
Right.
Yep. She came to him asking for her help, or for his help in starting up this institute. So joined forces with Kelsey Stringer, the University of Connecticut, the NFL, and also Gatorade.
And Doug Casa is one of the leading practitioners, one of the leading researchers at UConn in spearheading this, right? Yep. So let's talk about the mission real quick. Look at the 3 bullet points here, what they want to do. One is to get the word out. Awareness, you guys talked about, getting the word about the do's and don'ts. 2, as far as the mission, advocacy. You want to advocate for good practices, what's out there, right? Besides, you said water, what should you do? If a kid is in trouble, student, young man, young woman, what can you do, what should you do with the first sign of dehydration?
Yep. First sign of dehydration, obviously you want to rehydrate them.
Right.
But if you're worried about heat stroke, the biggest thing we can do is have people out there, or medical professionals that are trained in preventing, recognizing, and treating heat stroke.
An emergency plan. Talk about that. The importance of having an emergency plan. How do you get one established?
Yep. Most of the time, the athletic director at a university or the athletic trainer will have some sort of emergency action plan in place. So in the case of any sort of emergency situation, there's policies and procedures that are followed in order to minimize.
In the case of Corey Stringer, so now we know, if we look back and we say, you can look back and you can say, you could tell pretty much why he died. You can tell. Recognition, you mentioned, very important. Apparently nobody recognized. There was no emergency plan in place. All of these things, there are a lot of things that we could do today that could have saved Corey Stringer's life.
Well, what we do know is that recognition is important, but even more so, we know that the number one thing that has saved lives in the past is cold water immersion. So the sooner you get an athlete into a tub and cool them with that ice water, You
mentioned that these are available at a very reasonable price for anybody now. I mean, every team should have one of these standing by and ready to go.
Yep.
Now, what is a cold water immersion? Is this a tank and you just drop it in a tank? Simple as that?
Yep. It's a big tank. It's more like just a plain stock tank, and it's about 150 gallons. It costs about $150, and you just have it on the sidelines of practice or games. You fill it with ice and water, and if it's needed, then you just immerse that athlete in the water.
So the good news here, this is easily correctable. If you have someone in trouble, you can correct it simply by hydration, right? All right, let's talk about Kelsey Stringer. You talked about the wife of Corey Stringer. She worked, her whole last decade getting this done. Here was her comment on why she wanted to make this her legacy for her husband. She said basically that, I would like Corey's legacy to be about life and saving lives. I don't know a better way to do that than to offer sports professionals and lay people alike to go to a resource they can use to find the latest information, tools, and educational opportunities they need to help us prevent heat stroke and sudden death in athletes in the future. So she's taken a horrifying situation and made it something positive. Always something good comes out of that when you take something, a tragedy, and turn it into something that can help other people.
Yeah.
Well, it's a trite thing to say that he didn't die in vain, but every life that's saved from here on in is a part of Corey Stringer's legacy. Do you visit programs with a checklist?
Well, that's one of our main goals. We want to be able to be available to programs and schools and universities and be able to go out and help them and give them recommendations in terms of this is what you should include, this is what you might want to change, this is what you need to have in order to be able to deal with a heat stroke.
You talked about in the old days, they'd say, suck it up. I remember, I never played college football, but when I played football in high school, and we're going back to decades ago, believe me, and the old days, but we would do double sessions in August, and they'd give you salt pills to keep you from dehydrating, and that was about the extent of it.
Compounds the problem.
Compounds the problem.
All right, we're going to have you back next week. Big Ten issue with the Big East. We'll talk about that. We don't have time right now. Thank you for your time, and we'll see you again. Keep us posted on the progress. When we come back, folks, we'll talk about a record quarter for technology titan Apple. Fox 61 tech guru Rick Hancock joins us. You are watching The Stan Simpson Show.